Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good to see you this winter morning. We're continuing on in the series called Tongues of Fire. And particularly today, we have the day where we're remembering also Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But last week we kicked off the series talking about three key understandings about the power of our words. One, knowing that our words and the power that our words have are a gift that God's given us. It's an amazing, powerful gift that God has given us to be co-creators and partners with God. Also, that those words of incredible power can build us up or tear us down. And that those words, the words that we use, shape the quality of our lives. And also last week, we were challenged to look at these 5 different areas of, starting our day with words that acknowledge God as our Heavenly Parent. Bringing God in the very beginning, the starting point of our life. And using our words daily to encourage other people. Making a habit, a practice of words that encourage others. And then removing from our vocabulary curse words. Just taking them out. Instead, speaking words of blessings and being committed to speaking words of blessing. And, of course, listening, 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? Listening twice as much as we speak. And finally, centering our lives on God in all that we do, in all of our actions. So this week, we chose the topic a little bit off of the series, but particularly wanted to focus on it for Dr. King. We chose the topic of speaking up. Because many times in our life, we have opportunities to speak up, and we don't. And Dr. King was certainly an example of someone who righteously spoke out against injustices. Here's a famous quote from an English philosopher called Edmund Burke. It's attributed to him. He says, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing." Or it could say, good people say nothing. Well, Dr. Martin Luther King was definitely someone who did something. He spoke up and took action. Just quickly, here's some high points of his biography. He was born in 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, just a couple of days ago, January 15th. In 1947, he was ordained as a minister. In 1953, he got married. And then in 1954, he became the pastor of his own church in Montgomery, Alabama. In 1955 is when he became famous through the civil rights movement, the bus boycott in Montgomery, which you heard about in the video. In 1963 was when he did his famous in Washington, D.C. I Have a Dream speech given at the Lincoln Memorial. In 1964, as I said in the video, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and in 1968 his life ended by being assassinated and shot. So I want to read just something from the I Have a Dream speech. In case you haven't heard it before, I want to make sure you have it so you can always remember it. Dr. King says, "Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, and even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." This is Father Moon and his comments when he was asked. That interview actually was around 1978, and he was asked, as you heard, who do you think the most significant leader in this last century in America was? And he spoke quickly and said it was Dr. Martin Luther King because of his standing. And here I'll read. "Martin Luther King was God's chosen champion to fight bigotry and prejudice, proclaiming the equality of all races. He was not just assisting the black people's cause, he was assisting America's cause, bringing the nation closer to God's ideal." So, I want to bring this for the topic of the power of our tongues to our own lives and the opportunities that we have to speak up or to be silent. And we have lots of these opportunities in our lives. One that I typically think of is in the classroom or in meetings. One is oftentimes a teacher will say, okay, ask a question. How often do you raise your hand to answer a question? Some of us are more shy than others, right? Well, that's a chance for us to speak up. But even more, this is where I have a little bit of a challenge sometimes, is sometimes we need to ask questions of teachers or presenters. Now, I go to a lot of meetings where in the social work field there's a whole lot of acronyms, which means abbreviations. We have a few ourselves, HSA, UWC. Well, if you say that, all of us know what that means, right? Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity. A lot shorter to just say HSA, UWC, right? But in technical terms, I went to a meeting the other day, and I remember the person who was explaining the program. He says, okay, we're planning to have ACAC implement the CPSP assessment so that kids can improve their SAT scores. So, I understood SAT, right? Serious approval of parents, right? No. Something like that, right? Substantial scholastic aptitude test. See? Some of you knew it, right? But all these other acronyms, I had no idea. Now, if he had just gone on with his presentation, I would be confused throughout the rest of the presentation. So here I go. I raise my hand and says, sorry, I don't know what ACAC and what PC stands for. And so then he could explain that. And actually, I saw about half the people in the room go, whew. They didn't know either, right? Sometimes we're kind of shy, but if we don't actually stand up, speak out and say, I need help, I don't understand this, then a lot of times we get confused and we don't get the benefit. Well, how about with friends? This happens a lot, where maybe the friends are getting together and we start gossiping. Right? Talking about our other friend who's not there, right? Talking bad things about them. So, do we speak up? Do we say something? Will we be rejected by our group if we say something out, against that? Yeah, that's an opportunity to speak up, but a lot of times we're too shy or scared or don't have the confidence to speak up. How about when someone's really talking wrong ideas? How about if you're in a group of people and someone says, people that believe in God are idiots. And I say, no, they're not. I believe in God. Then the person says, yeah, see, I proves my point. We need to be able to respond to that, right? Or, all Muslims are terrorists, or all unificationists are brainwashed. Now, people speak this kind of stuff, and do we speak up? Do we respond? Do we clarify these things? Well, that's our challenge. And then, the fourth one I just want to mention is that a lot of times, not a lot of times, hopefully not a lot of times, but we have the opportunity, we're seeing someone doing something wrong. See a crime being committed or someone, like, an example the other day, I ate the last cookie that we had, that we saved for my mom, So, Renata saw me eat the last cookie. But then when Grandma comes over and looks and says, where's the cookie? What do I say? I say, oh, Eleanor ate it. Right? So what should Renata do? Oh, she better speak up, right? And say, no, Mom is innocent of that crime. Daddy did it. Well, that's maybe not quite as serious, but sometimes we're confronted with things like graffiti or theft, or especially when someone else gets accused of something and we know that they're innocent, but we're afraid to speak up. So there's other situations, I'm sure you have in your own life, many examples of opportunities where you felt, I should probably say something, and I don't. I don't speak up. So what is the result of us not speaking up, speaking out, because we're afraid or because we don't have confidence? I mean, there are occasions when it's appropriate to be silent, right? Remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth. We don't want to just be arrogant and always, have our 2 cents to say. But there's times when it's really important and appropriate for us to speak out. And when we don't, because of fear or because of lack of confidence, then that's a problem. That's a problem. One of the things is that not speaking up, staying silent, is giving tacit approval. It's like we're saying we agree. Like in the classroom, when the presenter goes on and talks all these things, as long as I don't speak up and say, I don't understand what you're saying, the teacher just assumes that I understood. You understood? So I'm just giving approval by being silent. So the teacher doesn't even know that I'm completely lost by what they're talking about. Or when our friends are gossiping, right, and we don't say anything, we don't speak up, we're in fact agreeing with them. We're supporting them by being silent and not contradicting them. Or how about in the case of people speaking wrong things? People who believe in God are idiots. We just kind of smile and go, like an idiot, right? Without speaking up, we are actually affirming that and supporting that kind of thinking, that kind of wrong thinking, dangerous thinking, unhealthy thinking. Or when we see a wrong being done and we don't speak up, we're basically supporting that. We're protecting the criminal, protecting the crime. So if we do that because we're afraid or because we don't feel confidence, we become partners, actually. We're approving and supporting what the wrong thing was. Also, by being silent, we allow mistakes to continue. Things that are wrong or misunderstandings or errors. Again, in the classroom, teachers goes on their merry way thinking that we understand. But if the teacher understood that we were confused, then the teacher would take the extra time to explain. But by not speaking up, then it continues. Also, people's wrong thinking. Or, when people are gossiping, of course that's bad towards the other person, but people who gossip are poisoning themselves. And us not speaking up, we're allowing them just to continue this bad habit, this evil, this destructive habit of poisoning themselves through gossip or crimes or whatever. So all these things, we are allowing those mistakes to continue and to persist. Then thirdly, if fear is what is driving us, then we're allowing fear. We're giving it reinforcement. We're just encouraging fear to lead our lives. More and more consistently, fear becomes the controller, the operator of my life. I'm afraid to speak up because I'm afraid. Who's the boss of my life? Who's guiding my life? It's fear. My fears. We don't want that. We want to be living out of our vision, right? Not out of our fears. And sometimes, we have to step up and be bold. And then additionally, the more we give in to that, the more we lose our own confidence in what we know is right. If we don't stand up for what's right and let other people just say that, we start losing our own confidence in the truth. Because we didn't stand up for it. We are losing our confidence. So at some point, we just go along because, they may be right. Because we're not certain anymore of ourselves, because we've continually not reinforced what we believe and what we know is true. Oftentimes, God gives us opportunity to speak up, to speak out, opportunities to share. We have a wealth of knowledge, a rich wealth of understanding about God and about life. How often do we just stay silent when God would love us to be able to speak up, to speak out, to share? Here's from Dr. King, a talk he gave about the problem of silence. It says, "A time comes when silence is betrayal. The truth of these words is beyond a doubt, but the mission to which they call us is the most difficult one. Some of us, who have already begun to break the silence of the night, have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony. But we must speak. We must speak with all the humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, but we must speak." And Father Moon says, "Do not forget that our duty and mission is going forth boldly and in high spirits as great owners of heaven and earth, and God's liberated children. You must conquer Satan's territory and repel Satan. You must capture his realm. Stand up boldly." Encouraging words, right? Stand up boldly. Well, that's sometimes hard. So how can we get there? How can we get there? How can we be people who are confident, overcome fear, and speak up? Well, I'm just going to go through 4 quick points. First, we need to know what we believe. We need to know and understand what we believe. That happens a lot through dialogue and discussions. That's why we study. Of course, in our church, we emphasize we need to study so we have a clear understanding of the truth, how God is working in our lives and in our world. Again, I invite you. Saturday mornings are great. A nice breakfast, a good fellowship time. But really important is the time where we explore the divine principle and discuss it together to get more grounded in it and understanding. Same thing with Hundacade, maybe your morning study that you do as a family. It's important that you come to understand and appreciate what we're reading. When we read scriptures, we should discuss it and think about it so we can become confident in what we believe, not confused. That's why over and over again I hit you up with what are the 5 fundamental principles of the Universal Peace Federation, right? We should have those right at the top of our tongues because it's so easy to talk. God's the parent of everyone. That's what we believe. We should easily be able to speak up for that. That we are spiritual, not just physical beings. We have a spiritual life. Number 3, that the family is important. Family is the school of love. It's where we learn about relationships. 4, about service. That we should live in service to others. That's the life of fulfillment. It's through living for the benefit of others. And then finally, the 5th point about bringing peace in the world is through cooperation and communication. We need each other. And we need to go across all the boundaries and barriers of race and religion and ideology to be able to relate to each other. Those are 5 points that you should have down pat. That easily you can say to anyone, this is what I believe. These are kind of like my core beliefs. And be freely comfortable and able to do that. Now, another opportunity for this is our small groups. When we meet together as a small group, families discussing, or multiple families together, sharing, we can reinforce and encourage each other in our understanding of the truth. Also, one thing that we're developing that's coming soon are tribes for the young people. Getting together, sharing together so that we understand what we believe. And we become grounded in it and confident in it through dialogue and conversation with each other. And when there's questions, the best place to come up with questions is with friends, right? And exploring, I never kind of got that dual purpose of the 4-position foundation and the triple objective purpose. Huh? And had talked that out so it becomes something that you have in your own terms. So you're not saying triple objective purpose, because no one's going to understand what you're talking about. But you could talk about that in common, normal language, normal English. So, in addition to making a strong foundation of knowing what we believe, being confident in that, we need to practice expressing it. That's also when I'm inspired to plan for Speak Up, right? We have a plan in April for public presentations, for speaking. But also in these small groups and tribes when we're together, we practice expressing the truth to each other. On Saturday mornings we do Divine Principle, and I'll get up and maybe talk a little bit. But it's not about just you learn how to listen to me talk. It's about each of us being able to convey the truth of the Divine Principle naturally and freely. And we do that by practicing our expression. Also, it's by practicing those difficult challenges. Like, someone says, oh, what do you think about homosexuality? Well, that's a hot topic. Now, how do you answer that question clearly and with love from a principle point of view? There's many issues in our lives and in the world around us. People really want to know. People are really curious. People have all kinds of ideas. If we particularly practice with each other in a safe environment, how would you respond to someone who's negative, someone who's attacking you, someone who has a very orthodox view of Christianity, and they're attacking? How do you respond to them? Not attacking back, but with love. Right? So by practicing expression, I don't know, maybe you've had this experience. I might be the only one, but someone comes at me and they hit me with that line, and I can't think of a thing to say. But then a little bit later, I got about 20 different things I could have said, right?
Yeah.
Well, how about if we spent time working on those 20 different things together with friends, practice them so that it becomes more comfortable and natural for us to share those kinds of expressions. Speaking up and speaking out. So the third point I want to make on this is that God has given us an amazing gift in our conscience. God speaks to each one of us powerfully through our conscience. We know when we're doing wrong. God's there speaking through our conscience to guide us. You get that feeling like, I know something is off. The more we listen, the more we pay attention to our conscience, the more power we give it. The more easily we can live a life clear and free. Father Moon speaks all the time about, our conscience is the powerful tool, even closer to us than God, to be able to guide us. God works through our conscience so that we can do good in the world. The truth is any time that we don't follow our conscience, it leaves a little confusion in our mind. It leaves a little incompleteness and uncertainty. It's just like, I know I didn't do quite the right thing, but I'm just going to go on. Well, we go on, but that little right thing that we didn't do, it keeps bothering us. It stays with us. We may be good at burying it, but it stays there. It's always there. So Father Moon often talked about, having straight up and down, being clear. It means our conscience is clear. So even our past, sometimes we need to clear out some of those things. But if we can act consistently with our conscience and develop that habit, then we're working our way to a life of genuine freedom, where we genuinely feel at peace at any time and confident. Also, and I want to conclude with this point, is that it's all about love. God's design for the universe, design for our lives, is all centered upon love. We can be the smartest guy in the room, guy or gal in the room. You stand up and, I'll show them you're wrong, and bam, 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 right? Hit them with the truth, really knock them down. But how much good does that do? How much does that heal them, right? I can knock them down, boy. But did that really help? So when we speak up, we're not speaking up just to oppose or just to be contrary or just to show off. The motivation for everything we do is we want to make a positive difference in the lives of the people around us. Love. Love is the motivation for anything that we do. And we want to center our heart and our mind on that act of love to be able to bring that kind of healing and hope. So always love has to be at the center. Here's Dr. Martin Luther King expresses this really well. This is from his book, Strength to Love. Actually, this quote is in the World Scriptures, what we put together, representing a beautiful view from Christianity. He reads from his book, he says, "When we look beneath the surface, beneath the impulsive evil deed, we see within our enemy neighbor a measure of goodness, and know that the viciousness and evilness of his acts are not quite representative of what he is. We recognize that his hate grows out of fear, pride, ignorance, prejudice, and misunderstanding. But in spite of this, we know God's image is ineffably etched in his being. Then we love our enemies by realizing that they are not totally bad and that they are not beyond the reach of God's redemptive love." So when we're trying to correct someone, when we're trying to, straighten out a misunderstanding, when we're trying to stop our friends from gossiping, we're not doing it because our friends are so bad and I got to straighten them out. No, because we love them. We know that gossip is poison. We know that people have this hateful ideology or thinking are poisoning themselves or living lives of unhappiness. So we act out of love, and we learn and practice to speak in a way that actually can nourish people, that people can actually receive. Here's what Father Moon says, even about God, and understanding, and if we think about God, says, God cannot destroy anyone. God created with the ideal of love. God, whose desire to practice the love ideal, cannot pass judgment with his rod of iron. God cannot do that. The divine principle says clearly, and Father Moon says over and over, it's not God that sends us to heaven or hell. God doesn't want to send anyone to hell. But the natural consequences of evil in our life puts us in hell. God is desperate to bring us out of hell. Father Moon often says, it's not God that determines whether you're going to go to heaven or hell. It's you and your life and what you've done with what you do with your life. God wants you to live. God wants you to live and have life of fulfillment and joy. Here's another verse. How can I resolve, from Father Moon, the Cain-Abel problem? Where can I find the solution? The only way it can be resolved is through loving the enemy. Abel has to educate everyone through love. So God is calling us oftentimes to be the people that speak up. It can be hard. Peer pressure is a real thing. In school when you're a teenager, even at work. You're surrounded by all people. I have a whole office full of people that have completely opposite political perspective than me. I'm not there to fight, but I'm there to share. To share an alternate perspective. That all Republicans are not evil, or not Satan, right? Just as all Democrats aren't evil, and not Satan. So, with this, let's remember, and I encourage you, look through these 5 points again. Knowing what we believe, invest time in studying, and getting ourselves grounded. Practice in conversation, especially with friends, with people who have a like mind. Let's practice so that we can get good and eloquent, develop the language so that we can express answers to some of these very difficult topics that people do want to know. They want to know and they want to understand. Let's practice following our conscience, and bottom line for everything, let's always do what we do motivated by love. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, Father, Mother, God, our loving Heavenly Parent. We are so grateful for the precious examples we have of people like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who gave everything to speak up for your righteousness, to speak up, to try to bring healing to this nation and a change in the wrong thought. Heavenly Parent, we know that you're calling each one of us, and you have hope that each of us can be those shining examples, both through our words and through our actions, that can make a difference, that can help heal this world, beginning with the friends and the people who are in our immediate environment, the people all around us. Thank you so much for your presence, and we determine, Heavenly Parent, to continue to grow, to get more grounded in who we are and what we believe and what we know is true, and more grounded in our relationship and experience with you, so that with confidence we can know we are your sons and daughters and we are your representatives in this world. Heavenly Parent, and above all, please guide us that we can always be motivated and act out of your perfect and pure, unconditional love for others. So as your sons and daughters and as blessed sons or families, we offer up this prayer. Amen and adieu. Okay, please turn to your neighbor and share about Speak It Up.